Better news here and perhaps a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for perhaps one of the hardest hit industry groups in the world.
Rishaad, that's correct. That's how we see it. We did make the change. Our outlook has a 12 to 18 month forward view. We have confidence in what's happening in the U.S. with vaccinations. We do expect in passing months and quarters that vaccinations will increase in Europe and other parts of the world, and those regions will follow. Key in large markets like China, the U.S., Australia, the large expanse does promote domestic travel, and domestic travel is carrying the day right now.
But to make all this happen, Jonathan, there's got to be some sort of agreement on how you can travel, i.e. a vaccine passport, perhaps something like that. Where is there any progress in that direction?
There are incremental steps in that regarding a passport. You know, the EU has passed some legislation or indicated that it would be open to it. The industry organizations are working on it, but there has not yet a global standard for, the design and actual application for that to happen. So it does have to happen. Key with the vaccinations is the change, governments bringing down barriers. The passport is only one element of that. Allowing vaccinated travelers to arrive without quarantines will be impactful as well. And, right now with what's happening in different parts of the world with increasing infections, it looks a little slow, but I think we're going to see as time passes, and I'm not an epidemiologist, but what I'm reading is that those that are vaccinated are much less prone to illness, even if they test positive with the virus.
Jonathan, I'm surprised about the optimism about the outlook for travel. I mean, even as the U.S. is opening up, it's given warnings, travel warnings to about 80% of the world, I mean, including the U.K. and so on and so forth. And with that resurgence of virus cases, new variants, I don't see why you should be optimistic about international travel.
Yeah, well, again, our view is 12 to 18 months out, and we think that the factors that are going to promote domestic travel will spill over to international with passing time in this period. So one thing that's interesting to me is that, the Indian variant is spreading, beyond the region. There are places where it exists, but we don't have good feedback on the extent of the illness with the infections. And importantly, what I've read that the places where there aren't vaccinated people are getting infected, those are not with the Pfizer and Moderna mRNA vaccines. So I think we need in the next, passing months and even 6 months, we're going to get a lot of feedback about how that plays out. But we are optimistic because as vaccinations increase, I think, that will be an impetus for governments to loosen restrictions. If you take Italy as an example, Delta Airlines has announced service to Rome and Milan starting, I think, this week, actually. Look at Frankfurt. United has added a daily flight to Frankfurt. So I think it's going to come in fits and starts. Our outlook doesn't portray that this week and this month things are great. It's a forward view, and we do expect improvement.
Okay, so in 18 months, 12 to 18 months, how will travel look like?
We anticipate at the end of 22 that there is going to be, travel demand could easily be at about 70% of the 2019 level. We published an infographic back in November with our projection that by the end of 23, we expect a near fulsome recovery of travel volumes. I think what's important in the industry, particularly in the US and in Europe and other places, and I'm sure in Asia, the companies have taken at all stops in addressing their cost structure, making it more variable, controlling costs, and we do anticipate that the industry will be able to better serve at a relatively lower cost going forward.
Lots of questions. In fact, we have a story on a Bloomberg today about the outlook for miles, that perhaps, airlines would start devaluing those miles. We could be in danger, those of us who travel a lot. What's your take on that?
I don't feel like I'm in danger, truthfully, with my program. And I think others, should feel the same way, truthfully. So, if you look in the U.S. market, the companies, they have variable pricing with respect to rewards. And if I go to Florida tomorrow, I could probably get a flight for 5,000 or 10,000 miles or points. If I go at Christmas or a holiday weekend, it's going to be 30 to 50,000. So there's a lot of variable pricing today. I know Southwest got the attention for raising the cost, quote unquote, of its redemptions, but I don't think that's the case. Additionally, the airlines want to work down that liability through the recovery. They don't want to, hold that liability for too long. So if you're going to incent usage, you're going to lower price or maintain price and not increase it. And I think that's an important element here. So, for those reasons, I'm not too concerned, truthfully.
Jonathan, ultimately, the whole pandemic has, according to so many people, really accelerated what was there before when we're talking about the ability to work from home, to have conference calls globally, etc. Now, how does your rating get affected by this notion that corporate travel is not going to come back in the same way as, let's say, leisure traffic will?
Right. So I agree. The jury is out on the return of business travel. I think it's going to come back in milestones. An important milestone, particularly in the US, and I anticipate in Europe and other markets, as vaccinations progress, companies are going to reopen. In the US, we anticipate that come the fall, offices are going to be reopening. That's my expectation for myself and going back to my office. And I think that's going to be a key first step in returning, in business travel returning. And I have to say, Rishaad, that, I believe, human nature is driving the demand for leisure travel today. I've coined a term, I call it business nature. And, I think there's, in industry, in a company, management levels, lower down levels, there's a lot of interaction in business, just like there's human interaction. And the utility, the airlines are a facilitator for all of us, realizing utility, frankly, whether it's a vacation, visiting friends, or even a business trip to talk to a customer, or even to meet colleagues within the company to work on a project. So I think the jury's out, it's going to come back. But importantly, the airlines, the US in the lead, and now Europe, and I anticipate around the world, they are going to size their fleets and their cost structure to the level of demand. And if there is a meaningful reduction for an extended period, I anticipate smaller fleets, smaller footprints, and that may complicate or will complicate the volume of cash flow that the companies need to create, Jonathan, to repay the debt. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to repay that debt. So which of the companies or the airlines which are going to be in the best position? These are the ones which will likely do better. And will that really ultimately depend on strategic depth, i.e. intra-European travel? Countries such as America or China have big domestic services or domestic networks.
Yeah, I think all boats are going to float in this rising tide, so to speak, and for different reasons. In given markets, the low-cost carriers are well positioned because of their cost structure and the plans they have to add routes. There's been some companies that have left the market in Europe, as an example, and the low-cost carriers like Ryanair have moved in. So with respect to China and the US and the large, the legacy network carriers, they're built for not only serving domestic, international as well. So that will be a question, but if in reality the traffic returns and the long haul returns, and visiting friends and relatives and leisure is not only domestic, it's international. So I'm not ready to call the ball that these companies are not going to be able to generate the cash flow or restore their networks. And I think the customer is going to make that determination, be it leisure or business.